Welcome to another Oklahoma Memo podcast. My name is Ryan Welton, the founder and curator of Oklahoma Memo. And today I am joined by the executive editor of a new newsroom here in Oklahoma. It just debuted this week called Tulsa Flyer. And I'm joined by the executive editor, Gary Lee. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be
And
here.
thank you. And make sure I get the title right on this also. But you are also the publisher, the executive editor of the Oklahoma Eagle.
I am the executive editor of the Oklahoma Eagle. So I was managing editor at the Eagle for 4 years, and I was quote unquote kicked upstairs. So I'm executive editor of the Eagle as well.
Fantastic publication that readers of Oklahoma Memo, my daily news recap, you'll often see the Oklahoma Eagle there. In fact, as a general rule, Gary, and I mean this is the highest compliment, if it's in the Oklahoma Eagle, I make sure I have a link to it in the Oklahoma Memo recap. It's that good.
Good to
So
hear.
Tulsa Flyer, it's a new newsroom. It's a new nonprofit newsroom created by the Tulsa Local News Initiative. And there are many that I feature in the Oklahoma Memo, but this is a new one, and Oklahoma is not that big a state. So my first question to you is, how did this come together? What was the idea for another newsroom in the state of Oklahoma?
Well, we were born of listening sessions. So a couple of years ago, there was some thinking, there was a question. Were Tulsans getting all the news and information that they wanted or needed in one place? And in order to answer that question, the American Journalism Project, based in DC, whose mission is to start up, get kicked off nonprofit newsrooms across the U.S., they put together a kind of a study, listening sessions across Tulsa, also looking at existing media in Tulsa and trying to ascertain, do we need a newsroom? Were people already getting what they needed and wanted from existing publications, outlets, or was something else needed? And they concluded that something else was needed and that something else would best be a nonprofit, free to readers and listeners news outlet. And so that's how we got started. So we're born from the voices of the people across Tulsa saying they wanted something different than what they were getting.
I think that is a grand opportunity, and I'm really excited about it being free and available to everybody because as we know in the media ecosystem, the problem isn't folks like myself who can afford to pay for some subscriptions. It's all the folks in what they would call the news deserts who need access to just very, very basic journalism. But what, from an editorial perspective, will make the Tulsa Flyer stand out? Have you, has there been a lot of discussion about editorial focuses? Will it be green country only, or will it be the entire state?
Yeah, we put a lot of focus and discussion about what we should be, what we should cover. And in my experience, that finding our mission, our voice, and sticking to that is crucial. So we were founded by the Tulsa Local News Initiative, and we're a Tulsa publication. So our intent is to cover news and information for communities across Tulsa County. So that means the city, also the suburbs, a lot of would-be readers in places like Broken Arrow and Jinx and Sand Springs, et cetera. And we don't intend to try to be a state or national newspaper. We're a Tulsa paper, and we think uh, that one, Tulsa readers need something that's Tulsa focused. So one of the things that came out of those listening sessions was that people said that they didn't see in the existing publications much of themselves or their neighbors. So we intend to bring that to people. Also, we think that there is enough stuff going on a daily basis around Tulsa. Some of it serious, hard news. Some of it features, some of it news that you can use that we can easily fill a daily publication with that and have a different approach than I think what has been seen mostly in Tulsa news outlets in recent years.
It is fascinating and important that you noted that neighbors weren't seeing enough of themselves. Of course, the Oklahoma Eagle and the massive legacy that that publication has is going to be part of Tulsa Flyer. The Oklahoma Eagle, for those that don't know, a black-owned publication, and making sure that people in those communities are seen in a newsroom like the Tulsa Flyer is important. How will the Oklahoma Eagle and the Tulsa Flyer work together?
Right. So, thanks for uh, raising up and highlighting the Oklahoma Eagle and its legacy. One of the reasons why the Oklahoma Eagle, was selected to partnership with Tulsa Flyer is that the Eagle has a history and tradition of going deep in the community, elevating voices and issues within the community, and it's been mostly the Black community or underserved community in Tulsa. And there is a concept that we can broaden what the Oklahoma Eagle is doing across the city. So that same approach, but take it to neighborhoods across Tulsa, neighborhoods, communities across Tulsa. So we have two publications. We've got Tulsa Flyer, we've got the Oklahoma Eagle. There we will be. Each will have its own website, but you can tune into them, log into them by using tulsaflyer.org, I think. So you will find when you go there, when we're launching Wednesday, the 15th, you'll find a whole Tulsa Flyer site, and then you can click and you'll see an Oklahoma Eagle site. And so the Eagle will continue its mission of serving underserved communities, Black and other underserved communities across the city of Tulsa. The Tulsa Flyer will carry on with its mission to serve the readers across the city in every neighborhood possible. So but we are in one newsroom in on Archer Street in Tulsa. So the Eagle has part of the newsroom, Flyer has part of it, and we share story ideas and concepts. Um,
Those who don't know of the history of Archer, if you're a music fan at all and are familiar with Charlie Wilson and the Gap Band, that would be Greenwood, Archer, and Pine, I believe.
it is. That's exactly right. Let me also remind your viewers that, in fact, if you talk about historic Greenwood, Archer Street, reaching all the way up until about Denver, was included in what was historic Greenwood. So we are located as a newsroom in the old historic Greenwood area. Let me add one other thing since you were kind enough to ask about the Eagle. The Eagle will also continue as a weekly print publication. It was sold before we had subscriptions. We also were offered at Quick Trip and other places for sale. But now that we're nonprofit, it'll be free. And we will distribute a list of where you can pick it up in I think it's going to be about starting at about 70 different locations across the city of
I think
Tulsa.
that's important to note because, as you talked about just a little bit earlier, broadening your coverage, it's important in 2025 to broaden your distribution capabilities. And that includes print, but that could also include things like newsletters, podcasts, text alerts, social first. So is it going to be everything omni-channel?
It's going to be most everything that we can. We do have to acknowledge that even though we have some fairly good funding to start out with, that we do, we have budgets and we can't try to be all things for all people. But we will be on social media. We'll be on Facebook. We already are. Instagram. What we want to do, Ryan, is to make what we do as accessible as possible to as many readers, listeners across the city of Tulsa. Because we think that there is a vast potential audience. We just have to make it easy for them to get to us and to engage with us.
It's what's been very impressive so far, even though this will be coming out after the Tulsa Flyer has officially debuted. But there's been a lot of work on social, including TikTok, from the Tulsa Flyer, from the folks who are going to be doing the reporting. I've seen you, Gary. I love the music in the background, the gamut, and I think it's important that publications that they pony up to the doing newsletters and podcasts because it is about access. Some people prefer to read, some people prefer to watch, some people prefer to listen. Something else that I've picked up on, Gary, with regard to Tulsa Flyer is the collaborations that you're going to be doing. In addition to the legacy, the Oklahoma Eagle, you've got Griffin Media, News on Six. Are there others? And what is Tulsa Flyer's philosophy with regard to collaboration with other newsrooms?
Thank you for that question, Ryan. We determined from the very beginning that the readers across Tulsa would be better served by a partnership of news outlets from across the city that work together rather than trying to compete with each other. So, what we did is we said, okay, there's some great legacy and even newer news outlets in the city that were all doing like really incredibly great stuff. And we didn't want to drive those out of the market. So we said, okay, let's partner with them. And partnering means in many cases sharing news copy. They can run Tulsa Flyer and Eagle copy. We can also run their copy. So we set up very close partnerships with La Semana, the bilingual newspaper serving the Latin community in Tulsa, with the Frontier. Many are familiar with the Frontier's investigative approach to journalism in Tulsa and elsewhere in Oklahoma. Um, KOSU, which has a good tradition of reporting, among other things, on indigenous issues. That's important to us. Focus Black Oklahoma, many people will be familiar with them. And so those are it added to the Flyer and the Oklahoma Eagle. Those are the closest partners. But we also have partnerships with, you mentioned News on Six. We'll be sharing some of their stories. They'll be hopefully sharing some of ours. We have a partnership with Tulsa World. Also, they will some of our stories will appear on that site. And listen, we are for amplifying the great stories across Tulsa that appear in almost any news outlet, and also having them use them. We are lucky to have a really incredible team of reporters and who are already filing some really significant stories and will continue to do so. And we want to make those available to any news outlet in this area that wants to use them.
They will also for sure be included in Oklahoma Memo, Gary. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers now. We're getting really, really close. And so it is literally the reason why I created Oklahoma Memo was to amplify the work of newsrooms across the state and to connect Oklahomans who don't have a lot of time every day to vetted actual journalism. So I love hearing your collaborative approach.
Yeah, and in many ways, Ryan, you have forged the path before us. So you're already doing a big part of our own mission. So let's keep working together.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that's so important, I do a little bit of work with Local Media Association, and that organization is all about sustainability. And so when I heard about Tulsa Fire and the Tulsa Local News Initiative, and I heard about the money that was going to be available to help sustain that newsroom, I thought, oh, this is really, really exciting news. But what can you say about the Tulsa Flyers plan for ongoing sustainability and how you see viability financially in a newsroom working 2025 and beyond. I heard an interview the other day with one of the leaders at The Guardian, and they talk about it being sort of a split. some of it would be reader revenue or donations, some of it would be, philanthropic. Is there a recipe or a formula that the Tulsa Local News Initiative and Tulsa Flyer are taking into consideration?
Ryan, as you know, for long-term sustainability, local news outlets are in a fight for their lives. And we're also part of that fight. So we're lucky to have some good startup money, but we're also aware that if we are going to be there doing this mission for readers across Tulsa over the long term, that we need to keep up the effort to have the resources we need to do that. So, what I can tell you is that based on the experience of others who've been successful in raising funds for nonprofit newspapers. There have been some great examples in different parts of the country, and based on their experiences, those revenues will come from philanthropic donations, from private donors. They will also come from readers across the city who just like what we do and want to give donations to us. We've already got some significant donations from various folks across the city, and we'll keep up that effort. But I believe that part of the measure of our success will be how much we will be free to anybody who wants to log in and read what we do. But I believe part of our success will be measured by how willing people are to say, okay, Tulsa Flyer's doing a good job. I want to give $5 or I want to give $10 a month, that sort of thing. And we are sure that if all of these sources stand up to the plate, like what we do, and approve of it, that we'll have the funding, the resources to keep going for years.
I call it my journalism tithe. $5 here, $5 there, just supporting
Yep.
local newsrooms and good work. And I think you're absolutely right. Um, Long-term sustainability is the biggest challenge, but to catch the eye of potential donors, you're gonna have to do some things that are innovative. And there was nothing more innovative that I saw in what you were doing than this program, the Tulsa Documenters program. What a great idea to work with folks who may want to cover their own communities. For those who don't know, to me, it appears to be that you would sort of be deputizing some people to cover meetings here and there to just offer broader coverage. What can you say about the Tulsa Documenters program?
The documenters of all the various things that we're doing, Ryan, that has taken off on fire and attracted a lot of attention. So we have already signed up, I think, something like 75 individuals from across Tulsa to go to public meetings and write a report, a document of those, and post it so that the general public has access to it. This is a stepped up and I think more organized version of citizen journalists. So it does a couple of things that are really important. I think the most important of those things is that it allows people readers to have access to what happens at meetings that they don't have time to go to or they don't have the access to in some way. So we go to those meetings, and some of them will be city council or school board, or also some of the tribal government meetings that are open to the public. And we'll do recordings of those and write them up. And our documenters are already at work doing that. So another really important aspect of this program is that it brings in people who are not necessarily trained journalists, most are not, but do want to kind of get involved in reporting in some way and do want to get involved in serving the community in that particular way. So thirdly, I will say that based on the experience of many other similar nonprofit publications across the country that have documenters programs, that some really serious, impactful stories come out of the reporting that those documenters do. So that's a winner, and our goal is to continue to build that program and make it accessible to whoever wants to tune into it.
A different set of eyes, a different thought process, and sometimes we as journalists can become numb to the things that we see on an agenda or hear in a meeting, whereas somebody else with different set of experiences may say, "That really caught my attention." So I could see how you could come up with stories that you otherwise might not.
Yep, it's already happening. We're already seeing some of that in our just nascent newsroom here.
Folks, if you're subscribed to Oklahoma Memo, and I hope you are, Tulsa Flyer is going to be a big part of the Oklahoma Memo daily newsletter and what I personally do on social media, because really I envision myself as the biggest cheerleader of what you're doing, Gary, and I really appreciate that. If audiences, if a reader or a business or a philanthropist wants to get involved, how should they get in touch with you?
Okay, so there's if you go to our site, there's a link to I think it's info at Tulsa Flyer or something along those lines, and they can reach out to us. And I will just to clarify that, I'll circle back to make sure which of um, the email channels is most easy to get to, and I'll send that to you, Ryan. But thank you for that because we're looking for people to engage with us. We're looking for people to communicate with us. And in terms of cheerleading, you and us can stand across the fence and cheerlead each other because the work that you're doing is super important, and we consider it to be a strong part of the news ecosystem.
Oh, fantastic. That does my heart good, Gary. Thank you so much.
Yep, appreciate it. Thank you.
As always, if you find this video, like, subscribe, share it with a friend, and be sure to visit tulsaflyer.org. I'll have all the notes and info in the show notes and in the YouTube description. Gary, thank you so much.